Hello, beautiful people of YouTube, and I wanted to talk to you today about a book again. A book called Foe by J.M. Coetzee, the South African writer from Cape Town, who actually did his PhD in Texas, here in Texas. And this book I wanted to mention because summer is coming and some of you will probably go on vacations, and this, I believe, is the perfect vacation reading material. It's a very short book. You could read it in a weekend or a week or whatever it may be, depending on your individual writing style. And J.M. Coetzee is the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, so it's not just some random dude writing a book about random stuff. And really what it is a subversive take on the famous novel Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. And in the book Foe is the story of Englishwoman Susan Barton, and told from her perspective, and how she is cast away on a ship and ends up stranded on an island, and she encounters Robinson Crusoe with the E dropped. Coetzee drops the E for some creative reason, I think as a challenge to the original, and his trusty assistant Friday, who is in himself, as the character, a strong representation of slavery, because Friday is originally a slave, now free, but sidekick of Robinson Crusoe. And he has the remarkable symbolism or metaphor in the book is that Friday has no tongue. He cannot speak, so he has no voice to share his story or his opinion. And with Coetzee's background from South Africa and all the political turmoil going on there at the time, the book was published in 1986. That's quite relevant to the tale. And when the protagonist, Susan Barton, gets back to England, she wants to tell the story, and she works with a writer called Daniel Foe. Of course, the original writer of Robinson Crusoe is Daniel Defoe. Again, just an adjustment of that name, utilizing the word foe as in enemy. And again, another slight attack, a subversive gesture towards the original Robinson Crusoe. One of the overlaying themes of the book is language as power. And of course, with Friday, the former slave, having no ability to speak, that really speaks volumes, if you like. However, when the book was first published, it was heavily criticized in South Africa because a lot of people felt that Coetzee had potentially betrayed them, or he was focusing his attention on these bygone writers, Daniel Defoe, rather than focusing on the crisis in South Africa at the time, which of course was apartheid. And as many of you know, I mean, this literature often serves as an indirect, abstract voice to comment on what is taking place at the time. You would have to look for that meaning in whatever it is that you're reading or watching or listening to. And particularly in certain places and certain countries at certain times, it's not possible to just come out and criticize your government or to criticize your president or whatever it may be. You have to do so through literature. This is something that I personally found fascinating as far back as books like Dracula and Frankenstein in the 1890s, when they were unable to speak out about things like industrialization and the advent of the railroads and trains, which were terrifying the majority of society. And what they did instead was they turned to this dark Gothic literature to try to voice their opinions. With all that being said, go out and get the book. I truly think that you will love it as much as I did. I think anybody will enjoy this book. And if you do happen to have seen this video, consider as you're reading it, if you don't automatically, language as power and being understood as power. And for those of you who have lived in different countries like myself, or those of you who are immigrants in countries, and in particular countries where you don't necessarily speak the language as well as natives, and the impact that this has on your ability to progress within society, and how those who are native speakers in a country and who have a command of the language can potentially, and do typically, obtain some form of advantage towards power through that, and feel more childlike or weakened or less powerful if they do not have an ability to communicate with local society. And with that, I shall not bore you further. Thank you for listening, and talk to you soon.